with Pam. Pam is a cat mom, a holistic health seeker who, after suffering an injury that wouldn't heal, was led on a journey to seek out alternatives, holistic and natural medicine. She now shares what she learned, helping people and their cats along their path to holistic health. Pam has taken courses in holistic health for animals, muscle testing, and animal communication. Please welcome Pam back to News for the Soul.
Happy Monday, everyone. This is Pam with Perfectly Holistic. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are excited to resume our chat from last month about deciphering pet food labels. And I brought along friends because it's more fun when you have friends to talk over this with. So joining me once again is Janet Cesarini with Pepology. She's getting her camera all set up. Thank you for coming back. And special guest, Brad Clinthorne with Steve's World Pet Food. We brought him along because he's so smart and he knows a lot about raw food ingredients and pet nutrition and calculating calories and cost comparisons and all this other fascinating stuff that you're going to learn. So we just want you to take good notes. Follow along with us and learn. We're just sharing what we've learned, and it can be very, very beneficial whether you have a dog or whether you have a cat. It's important that you know what your pet is eating and that it's beneficial for them and it's helping them to thrive, not just survive. So thank you guys for coming back and joining me tonight. Hopefully you've had a great day. So Janet, how are you? Thank you for coming. And I know we kind of introduced you last time, but just maybe a quick blurb who you are for people who don't know you. And yeah, just real quick, introduce yourself.
Sure. Thanks for having me back. My story goes back to my husband and I. We have two Australian Shepherds who will be 11 on their next birthday. And they started to have issues. And so those issues led me, like all people, to my local veterinarian, who is, we'd gone to since they were pups. And we were prescribed certain foods and certain medications. And me, I think just being an educator, I value research. And for whatever reason, my intuition that day said, let me go home and research, those recommendations before I just said, blanket yes. And that's where we are now. I have my store, Pepology, which we focus on, as holistic and natural as our pet parents are ready for. So, we run the gamut of raw food to gently cooked raw, to freeze-dried raw, air-dried raw, all the way to kibble. We have a kibble room that is very lovingly curated and carefully curated because we know statistically speaking, most people feed kibble or dry food. So, but it was my dogs. They are my children. Oh, is that Gunner?
It's Gunner. He's coming to say hi to everybody. Say hi, baby.
That's the quickest story you'll ever get out of me.
So Brad, tell us a little bit about you and what you do and how you got into this real quick.
Yeah, so I grew up just surrounded by animals. When I was a kid, my mom worked at the local science center. And so I spent all my time either in the woods or in the critter room hanging out with the animals. And I loved feeding them. That part was so much fun. Putting the box turtle on the floor and offering him some different things. Oh, tons of fun. No, so fast forward, I'm 17 and I start getting into weightlifting. Wouldn't believe it now, but back then really into it. And that's when I started researching nutrition. And I changed my own diet and I saw the difference it made in my life. It was just huge. It was unbelievable. So I pursued my dreams. I joined the film industry. I went out and worked in California for a few years. Got to work on some really cool TV shows and movies and stuff, doing sound. But I wasn't in love with it. So I came back to where I live here in Michigan. And I started working at the neighborhood pet store. And that's all she wrote. I discovered how much disparity there was between the really cheaper pet foods and the nicer pet foods. And even then, I hadn't discovered the very nice stuff. I didn't even know we had a freezer. But I thought, but I thought there's something to this. There's something to this. And I had pet parents coming in all the time with dogs and cats at home who had issues. And it was always the same issues. Oh, my dog's itchy. My cat throws up all the time. My dog has has digestive
Shedding.
issues. He's got a sensitive belly. Yeah, he's shedding. And I discovered that by making some nutritional changes, you could take care of a lot of these issues. So I nerded out. That's who I am. I'm just a total nerd. So I would work all day, and then I'd come home and I'd spend 4 or 5 hours sitting at the computer learning and learning and learning. Yeah. And we all know a little bit of internet learning can be a very dangerous thing, but eventually I started finding really, really cool, very smart folks to learn from, some of the best minds in the industry, I think. And so, years down the road, I had finally found raw food. And I saw the changes that made for animals, because up until then I had been using every trick in the book in my store. I was working in a variety of pet stores at that point. I was using every trick I could think of in the store to help these animals who are coming in with these problems. And once I learned about raw food and started using it for these animals who are dealing with issues, it totally changed their lives. And that totally changed my life. I just fell in love with treating these animals through raw foods. It's so cool. Yeah, absolutely. So a couple of years ago, I reached out to Steve's Real Food, my personal favorite raw company. Seeing as I was in the store, I had researched all of my companies thoroughly. I had met the owners of some of them, and Steve's was just, it always stood out to me. So I got a hold of the company. I said, hey, if you guys ever have an opening, I would love to join the team. And they said no. But eventually they called me up and said yes. So,
Awesome.
so here I am today. For the past year and a half or so, I've had a much larger stage to help dogs and cats live better lives. And I'm very thankful for that. That is my drive, my goal is just to help as many dogs and cats as I can live. If I can get them to live slightly better lives.
Yes.
I would love that.
Yeah.
If I can totally transform their life.
Yeah. I'm convinced that our Aussies would not be here had we not stopped doing some of the things we were doing and just, basically did a 180, everything from food, treats, flea and tick, heartworm, all of the things. Because they're at, hate to say, but their maturity and, 11 years old, when people hear, wow, they're 11, because they still act like puppies, very energetic and great coat, and Aussies that, they lose all that hair at the end of their butt when you're petting them. And I love to pet them because the hair doesn't do that. And that's always, if they're in the shop, that's what one of the first things that people notice is their coat. So
that's
leads
amazing.
to a great conversation.
It does. So Gina, I know you had picked up some labels that you wanted to kind of dive into. Last month, we deep dived into very specific labels and looking at specific ingredients and what they were, because most of the time, let's be honest, we can't pronounce what's on the label on some of these packages, so we just kind of skip over them and we look for something we recognize, if we're even looking at all. So I think it's important to not look at what's necessarily on the front of the bag. We got to turn the bag around and we got to look at it, and we got to use our discernment and understand what is in it. What do those words mean? And are they going to help my pet thrive or simply survive? Because there is a huge disparity between the two. And in the pet industry, you see the gamut. So that being said, what would you like to start with first?
So last time I brought in some, what I used to say in the teaching field, non-examples and we would show what not to do and then what to do. And today I've got my litany of things over here on the dining room table, and I brought in things that will demonstrate what we are looking for, I think, so that we don't get bogged down in what not to look for. So that was my approach this time. So, and I want to point out, the first episode, I mentioned how I used to buy fruitables, and on the front of the bag was fruit. And I thought, this is awesome. I'm giving my dogs whole foods without having to cut up an apple or give them a piece of banana or strawberries. And I laugh now just at myself, because I'm thinking to myself, what fruit have you ever seen in the form of a biscuit?
Right.
So, and I mentioned that last time, but this is how marketing, and it's not just in pet food, it's across the gamut of everything that we as consumers purchase. But marketing does a phenomenal job of getting one over on us time and time and time again. Right. So with no further ado, I want to talk about treats. Okay. Yes. And Brad, I decided to leave the Steves at the store because, we have a freezer full. We have all their freeze dry. We love Steves. They're fabulous to work with. And that's, it's one of our go-tos. But I left it at home so I could let Brad talk about Steves tonight.
Yeah, you give me the chance. I'll talk enough for both of us. Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
None of us has a problem with the gift of gab. So what I brought here are treats, because I brought up fruitables. What I love about Raw Rewards is that they're for dogs and cats. Why not? We're talking about, I'm going to read this ingredient. It's a single source ingredient. It says salmon. It's all it is. It's freeze-dried salmon. This is freeze-dried New Zealand green lip mussels.
Oh, so, nice.
Very nice. And, green lip mussels are, if you have a dog that's been diagnosed with cancer, first of all, I'm sorry. I know how that feels. Green lip mussel I just read a research paper this week from an oncology specialist in the veterinary field. And one of the nutraceuticals that he listed was green lip mussels. So look, and here the example that I brought is just single source ingredient. Another one that I wanted to bring up. So rawhides are everywhere. You go to Walmart, Target, grocery stores, dollar stores. And especially as we come upon Christmas, it kills me. Every Christmas, I take a picture of the floor to ceiling display. That's you've got 3 foot tall rawhides. Guys,
with a little red ribbon on them. Yep,
yes,
absolutely.
Yeah, they're perfect for Christmas, and put it in the stocking. But guys, do research. Go and see what rawhide really is. Dental chews, beware. Rawhide, the beef hide, and just not only what it is, but how they go about processing it. Yep. Or cleansing it. So this is from Dr. Bob Goldstein, and here comes my crew. Jack, the border collie, just let everybody in. Hi, guys. So if you hear barking, hi, guys. So, hi, Hanky. Hi, Beth. You want this? He wants this. Hi, Jack. So anyhow, this is Dr. Bob Goldstein from Earth Animal. They came up with an alternative to rawhide that is completely digestible, right, Hanky? So the ingredients on this, I'm going to read them to you real quick if my eyes can adjust to them. It's brown rice flour, chicken, turkey, agar, which is like algae, eggs, it's a preservative, eggs, olive oil, paprika, turmeric, banana, pineapple, and smoke flavor. So if you have to give your dog something like a rawhide to chew on, look for something that you can read all the 7 ingredients. This is for after dinner. So,
and it's interesting that the banana and the pineapple are in there as a great source of digestive enzymes.
Correct.
Yeah, they both help the no hide digest even more fully.
Yes. And
Pretty
we really like bully sticks and cow ears and pig ears and chicken feet, duck feet. We love, again, going back to the single source protein. That's what we have just a proliferation of in our store, and as well as the rawhide alternative. So that's it for treats. Single source,
Cool.
freeze-dried.
Keep them easy. Yeah, keep them clean. That is a really easy label to scrutinize, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, one of them, I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you. Here's another one. Here's what I brought last time. I don't think I got to read it last time. The first ingredient is meat byproduct.
Mm-hmm.
The second ingredient is, and byproducts, guys, that you're listening, are not even fit for human consumption. And why do we want to give our pets something that we wouldn't eat? I mean, it's cheap. That's why. Better margins.
Yes.
The second ingredient is soy grits. Soy, genetically modified.
Right.
Our bodies don't know what to do with soy. They cause all kinds of endocrine disruptions. Like you think Hashimoto's, you think Cushing's, all these things. Soy grits, genetically modified. You and I and the dogs and the cats don't need it.
And
glyphosate.
Yeah.
I said, yum, glyphosate. Yeah.
That too.
The bacteria in your gut. Oh, man.
Yeah.
Do not like that glyphosate. Yeah.
No glyphosate, please.
Go get some Roundup and pour a glass. Sugar.
More inflammatory.
Okay. My husband's telling me that our freezer's out, and that's not good. We can take it to the store and put it in our freezers there. This is real life, y'all. Okay, babe. Thank you. I'm glad you caught that. There's a lot of frozen raw food out there. Beef. Have no idea what beef. It's not beef liver, not beef heart, not beef kidney.
Well, also, I mean, it's not just the ingredient, but where is it coming from?
Right.
Yes.
Where is it coming from? What state was it in when you got it? Was it in some state of decay? Is it a product of rendering? Yeah. What is that beef's history?
Right.
Is it supporting farming operations that are ecologically destructive? What exactly are you voting for with that dollar? Yeah.
Amen. Propylene glycol is the next ingredient.
Oh, lovely. Toxic
Anybody
preservative.
Propylene
It's like
glycol.
antifreeze. Well,
It
it is.
It's in a lot of toothpaste.
It is, and it's in a lot of baked goods. It makes them soft.
Yeah. Salt is the next one. So we have salt, we have sugar, we have soy, meat byproduct. And guys, this is on every grocery store, every dollar store, every big box store around. And any guesses as to what it is?
It's probably a dog treat.
It is a dog treat. And it's got a cute little dog on it and a red bag, and it's called pepperoni.
Oh, yeah.
The other one that is its kind of sister is sausages. It's even got wheat flour, beef, soy flour, corn syrup, sugar. So,
sugar and genetically modified corn and glyphosate.
Yes, and while we're here, we're going to touch on the preservatives. So there's 2 3-letter acronyms that we want to avoid. So the best way to preserve food treats is with just natural, like fats or vitamin E mixed to cocoa.
You just remove all the moisture.
That's
the best way. You just remove all the moisture. You freeze dry it. That's the best way.
That is true.
Yeah.
Great point. Thank you. Yes. But in the world of this kind of ingredient panel, this one has got BHA. And its sister, as I call it, is BHT, which are known carcinogens. And yes, they are allowed in our food and in pet food. So you've got to be your own advocate and avoid at all costs, if you can, things that have BHA and BHT. And as we talked about, soy And it's important to know where your protein source is coming from. If you ask us about Northwest Naturals or Small Batch Pets or Primal or Steve's,
I'll tell you right where it's coming from. Yep,
we can tell you right
absolutely.
where it's coming from. It's traceable, and in most cases, and not all, but in many cases, sustainable. So I know that Steve's Real Food is very cognizant of, sustainable farming practices, and that's one of the many things that we appreciate about Steve's in our store.
Yeah, the beef industry as a whole could be driving up to 80% of the deforestation of the Amazon. I mean, it's
Oh yeah,
just because
read that.
something says, beef or chicken doesn't mean that it's good, that it's good all the way through. There's,
Right.
everything we eat leaves a footprint.
It does.
It's so true. It's so true.
So
Yeah, those are great examples. And I just, it's hard because I know some people get stuck in the fact that they go to the grocery store, they want the convenience, they just want to pick up their pet food at the grocery store. And unfortunately, there's just not a lot of healthy options for pets at the grocery store, unless you're going to shop around the perimeter of the room. Go to the butcher and go to the produce section and buy your whole foods, and your eggs and things like that, and making your homemade recipes following a nutritionally complete and balanced recipe. Then you I would say shop at the grocery store, but there's just not a lot that there's actually. I went into a local grocery store here a couple weekends ago and just went down the cat food and dog aisle, dog food aisle, and looked at some cat stuff, and there was absolutely nothing in there that I would recommend. Nothing.
Yeah.
It's like an aisle of Pop-Tarts.
Oh,
so
yeah.
you have your organic Pop-Tarts, but it's still a Pop-Tart. It's still not an appropriate food. Yeah.
It's
ultra processed.
And let's be clear, it's really considered feed, not food.
Correct. On your Pop-Tart note, ultra processed foods, chips, you had mentioned earlier, Brad, about how you learned about changing your own nutrition, which made you feel much better and have a different level of health. And I went through something similar with joint pain. And I finally put two and two together, and it was related to eating certain processed foods. And Pop-Tarts was one of them. They're convenient. Stick them in the oven or in the toaster oven. So, making some small changes, it was remarkable because within 48 to 72 hours, my joint pain in my knuckles, my knees, my elbows was gone. And then I tested it a few times. And sure enough, just the inflammation was immediate and incredible. So that's Mitzi. So if you think about like dry dog food, and you run the gamut of in the quality spectrum, but those
You're still in the Pop-Tart aisle.
You're still on the chip aisle, unfortunately.
Yeah.
So, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer. I mean, that is the reality of it. And so there are things that can be done because we are very sensitive to the fact that everyone has a lifestyle and a budget and things that they can do within certain parameters. So we also in the store talk to a lot of our customers about ways that we can boost the bowl or enhance the nutrition in the bowl. And Brad, you had a great story when we were doing a training a few weeks ago, and you talked about just like myself, you were a kibble feeder. And
absolutely.
You don't know any different. And another friend, same. And for years and years. And so another friend of ours, Jessica Fisher, with the Pet Parenting Reset, she likes to say, when you know better, you do better. And I believe that wholeheartedly, or at least we should strive to do better. So, we
do our best. Yeah. It may just be adding one small thing once a day, once a week.
Yeah.
An apple a
Whatever you
week on
do.
top of an all McDonald's diet is gonna
Yeah.
it's gonna make a difference.
An apple, an egg, some sardines. Yeah,
Mhm.
Yeah.
yeah.
So
All
give
right.
some examples, you guys, about there was a study that showed even if you improve 20% of the bowl, it can make a humongous difference.
Mhm.
Adding 20% or more of fresh food into
Yeah.
your pet's bowl can make a humongous difference in their health. So,
Yeah.
what are some ideas that you guys can share to make a better bowl, even if it's just once a day or every other day, or just, whatever people can afford to do to make it better?
Mhm.
What are some suggestions you have?
My
Uh,
go-to is always leafy greens,
mhm.
and I have a carton that's already. You can even buy it at your local independent pet store. Primal has power greens, and they have frozen green lip mussels. They have awesome squash, which is going to be your pumpkin squash. So that, and then my go-to with everybody is adding omega-3s from ocean sources like krill, which I happen to have here from Dr. Chris Besant from Herbsmith. So we add this to everybody's diet here, and it literally is just
Powder.
100% krill, just
Yeah.
crushed
Yeah.
krill. And then I like that her line. We sell a lot of that just because it's non-synthetic, which is another thing you've got to watch out for when we talk about ingredients and sourcing. You have to be careful about synthetics in your products. But I love things like krill. We use a lot of Rogue Pet Science, which is an omega. It's a fish based omega. And what else? Power greens, like I said. And Brad, you have stuff to add.
Yes, absolutely. Personally, I love kelp.
Oh, yes.
Actually, I buy it in 50-pound bags. Yeah, I love some sun-dried kelp. I actually feed it to my garden as well. I'd feed it to
Oh,
the soil
wow.
in my garden all the time. Kelp is a fantastic source of like 70 different trace nutrients that you need for optimal health. So it's a great natural way to get those into your diet. And so by feeding those to my soil, my plants are going to uptake them, and then my vegetables will be more nutrient dense. But also a little scoop in the dog's bowl every once in a while, fantastic, absolutely great for them. Don't go overboard. It does have it is a source of iodine, but a little scoop every once in a while is gonna do wonders for them. Again, omega-3s. Folks will buy fish dog foods and or fish kibbles. I'm sorry, fish-based kibbles. Okay, well, I'm getting plenty of omega-3s, but omega-3s are incredibly delicate. They're incredibly sensitive, to oxygen. So the minute you open that bag, they're going to start oxidizing. They're going to start breaking down into other compounds.
And to heat.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So any kind of source of omega-3. Fish oils, just make sure they're clean sources, just like Janet was saying. Krill oil, phytoplankton.
Oh,
Phytoplankton is a really, really cool one. Yeah, absolutely. That's going to be like the future of omega-3, super sustainable. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of
anchovies.
Yes, yeah, anchovies. Awesome. Yep, absolutely.
Sardines. Sardines Saturday. That would be a great thing for you guys to start implementing is, read your labels. You want them to be, in water. You want them to be, wild caught. And is it Alaska where they need to come from, or Pacific? Which one do you know, Brad?
I do know the Pacific Northwest is lower in contamination, but I'm sure there are other places as well.
Yeah.
Those smaller fish, those little fish, sardines, anchovies, things like that.
Yeah.
Yep, they don't build up a lot of those heavy metals. Not a lot of contaminants. So
just have sardines Saturday. Put them in your dog's bowl, or just give it to your dog. They'll love it. We one of our other single source treats, like we were talking about, Minnows.
Oh yeah.
Oh my gosh, Minnows are a hit. Dogs and cats too.
Yep. I used to you get the big bag of freeze-dried minnows, and I'd shake them around on the floor and pretend like I was a tropical storm, just dropping fish all over the place. Oh, my dog set a ball. The little one just rolls all over him, but the big dog goes and scoops him up. So it balances out eventually. I also have chickens, and so I do a lot of raw eggs. But eggs in a lot of formats. If you're making eggs in the morning, crack the egg in your pan. On the inside of that eggshell is gold. There's this little membrane, the eggshell
Mm-hmm.
membrane. It's an awesome source of hyaluronic acid, a bunch of other really cool nutrients. Peel that thing out,
Yep.
toss it in your dog's bowl. They'll thank you for it.
Exactly.
If you don't want to do raw eggs, boiled eggs are fantastic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ours
And
love them.
soft boiled. Yeah, soft
Mm-hmm.
boiled too. It's awesome.
Mhm.
And microgreens, like just, little
yeah.
sprouts. Little
Yeah.
sprouts.
Mhm.
Just
Oh,
mince them up and just put a half a teaspoon or a pinch if you're feeding cats. Just, a pinch in their food, mix it all up. Dogs can obviously have large, a little bit more if they're bigger animals, but those are awesome. Just great for
Yeah.
nutrition.
Great
Mhm.
source of digestive enzymes again as well. Helps boost what they can get out of the food they eat.
yes.
So yeah, microgreens are fantastic. If you haven't grown microgreens at home, guys, grab a mason jar, pull out the little removable lid that covers the top, and instead put a little mesh in there or something like that. Put the lid back on, put some little seeds in there. Real super duper easy. If you get them wet, turn the jar upside down. You'll have fresh microgreens in like 3 days. It's awesome.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's so cool.
It's
That's
so
so
easy.
cool.
I have a jar in my dish drying rack, just going all the time. The
I
chickens
love
love it. The
that.
dogs love it. Yeah, it's so easy. It's just ridiculous.
I remember
That's
Dr. Becker talking about, and Rodney talking about broccoli sprouts and how they're just a great natural detoxifier.
Mhm.
So
Mm-hmm.
when
Tons
you
full
talk
of
about
nutrition.
greens, yeah.
Mhm.
Definitely
Yeah,
full
all
of
the-
nutrition.
All the PFAS in the rain. We all need some detoxification.
Oh, yeah, we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Before we move on, I wanted to go back to labels for a minute because I found some really interesting information about what's actually in the or what the label means when you actually are talking about certain things. So I'm going to pop over here to a screen that I have. And I got this article off of redbarn.com. They have a really good article about decoding the label, and it's called with the name game. So basically, the governing body, if you will, of like the pet industry is AFCO, and they set the rules, so to speak, and they put the definitions. They own the definitions of pet food, and so what their definition of a particular food or ingredient is doesn't necessarily mean what we think it means. So I wanted to go over a few little things that I found because I think this is real important.
So could I
Yeah.
stop you real quick, Pam?
Yes.
Who is AFCO formed by? Is it a governing body? Is it some unbiased group who makes the rules? Who is
That's a
AFCO?
great question. So AFCO is basically big food manufacturers that all get together and set the rules for their industry.
For their
Which-
industry.
for their
their-
industry.
Yeah, the
They-
feed industry.
The food industry.
Mhm.
They can define labels, they define ingredients, they make the rules basically, and then they play with the FDA. They submit their definitions to the FDA, and supposedly it's law, but the problem is that the FDA does not enforce law. So it's like a big, I don't want to call it a Ponzi scheme, because that's not really the term I'm looking for, but it kind of feels like one.
Well, I think what you're getting at is that we're pulling the wool over people's eyes.
Yeah.
We're making up
It's-
the rules for the game that we want to play, and we're not giving anybody else the we're playing a card game and we don't get the rules. We're playing a game where we don't get the rules.
It's the
Right.
food pyramid brought to you by McDonald's.
There.
That's a great analogy, and yeah, you're right. I mean, you have to. I mean, they're not very transparent with consumers, with pet parents at all, and you have to. I don't even know if you can go as a consumer to their meetings. I know you have to pay to get their book, their ingredient list or whatever it is, and it's not cheap, people. I mean, they kind of price it out of the normal consumers' price range, and I think they do that to do it on purpose to kind of.
It's like a closed door meeting.
It really is. It really is kind of a closed door meeting. Yeah. So I don't think they're necessarily on the side of pet parents. They're really on the side of money, making money, setting the rules, and they don't want any outsiders coming in and changing their game.
Yeah.
Like raw food companies and, better nutrition. They tend to gang up, if you will, in some regard to these new players that want to do right by pets and pet food, better pet food ingredients and things like that. So that's kind of a skewed game, if you will. But let me share some of the definitions with you because I thought this was really interesting. So you want to look for real meat as the first ingredient. And if there's fillers like corn, wheat, or soy, they should be very, very low, if at all, on the ingredients list. Of course, we would like to not see them at all. This article also says if a meal is listed, be sure it specifies exactly what kind of meal. So, for example, chicken meal, beef meal, salmon meal, not just meal. You don't want a generic meal like fish meal. You want it to be a specific protein so you know exactly what you're getting. And it also said that specific protein byproducts are better than if they just say byproduct meal, because that could be mystery meat. We don't know where that byproduct comes from. Some byproducts might be healthy, but in my experience of doing all the research and digging I've done over the years, byproducts to me tend to be the leftovers that the humans don't want to eat. And that could be organ meat, it could be, but then it also could be fur and hoofs and feet and, these protein sources that are not necessarily quality nutrition. They're just protein, but may not be very digestible sources of protein.
Yeah. You're looking for the organ meat, the muscle meat, the bone, things like that are in raw food.
Yeah,
so
exactly.
as a consumer, you should expect to be able to reach out to your food company and find out exactly what's going in there. That's the long and short of it. I mean, if you don't understand what's on the label, you should expect to reach out to that company and ask them, hey, I don't know what this is. What's it doing in there? And to get a real answer.
True.
Yes.
That should be your absolute expectation.
Yeah.
Yes. A couple other things this article said that I thought was really interesting. It says, avoid the food if the name of the food contains the statement with or flavor, such as if it's with beef or beef flavored, because this is only going to be a small percentage of real meat. The same ingredient avoid it if the same ingredient is listed multiple times. For example, if it says high fructose corn syrup and sugar and sucrose. I think they call that ingredient splitting. Is that right, Brad?
Yes.
That's right. And you see it a lot with starchy carbohydrates. Peas, very common example. You see green peas, pea starch, pea fiber, pea protein, pea flour. Yeah, absolutely. Break it into 18 different pieces. Otherwise, you stick it all together and you'll see that the recipe is 88% peas. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. They also said avoid it if the fillers in the food and the treats are too many fillers. Because, then you're getting is filler and you're not getting any, meat. You're not getting any real nutrition in it. If the name of the food reads recipe, dinner, or formula, the meat ingredient in the name must be at least 25% of the food. So if it says salmon formula or salmon recipe, then you're going to have at least 25% salmon in that recipe. It says you avoid it if there are two or more meats listed in the name, like chicken and salmon dinner, the food must have a combined 25% of both meats. So they're just going to, it could be 10% of one and 15 of another, or it could be 5% of one and 25% or 20% of another. So you don't really know what that quantity looks like.
So either way, if you're buying dinner or entree, you're only getting probably 25% meat. You're getting undoubtedly less meat than you expected to get. Yeah.
So contrast that, if we could segue real quick, and Brad, talk about Steve's. So in contrast.
Yeah, absolutely. So Steve's, we're one of those companies that's very, very transparent. So you could find out everything on our website. You can find out where we're getting every single ingredient. Everything in our foods is an actual food. The only supplement that we add is taurine. And we have a natural source of taurine. But everything else is actual foods, and not just portions of foods, but real food. And it makes for a very interesting label. Unfortunately, I don't have any bags with me right now, which I'm pretty embarrassed about that. I could go get one out of the freezer. But if you guys are at home, pull up stevesrealfood.com and check out the ingredients. It makes for a very fun bag to read, because I used to take customers over to it all the time in the store, and they go, oh, well, where's the second half? Where are all the vitamins and minerals?
Right.
Yeah.
You do know that these food ingredients contain vitamins and minerals. They're in the food already. So that's something that really drew me to Steve's long ago, is the belief that you can get all of your nutrition from the actual foods you eat and not have to add these synthetic supplements that have so many issues associated with them. But to circle back to your question, we're very transparent. When you buy any bag of Steve's Original Diets, they're 80% meat, organ, and bone.
There you go.
And we give you the exact breakdown as well. But in that bag, 80% meat, organ, and bone. A lot of times when you see like a meat ingredient first on a bag of dog food, on a bag of kibble, if that kibble's been cooked and it says chicken as the first ingredient, you guys might have already touched on this. That is raw chicken versus maybe some dry ingredients. So if you're holding a handful of rice and a raw chicken breast, well, your rice is 14% moisture. Your chicken breast is 72% moisture. Once you cook that chicken breast, there's way more rice than chicken breast. So, you really got to scrutinize this stuff a little bit. But when you're buying real fresh foods, and you can recognize those because you'll find them in the freezers or in the refrigerators, because they won't have preservatives added to them.
Right.
Then you don't have to worry about that. You know exactly what you're getting. Yeah, absolutely. Look at those awesome patties. Yeah. And I bet maybe on the bag somewhere they tell you exactly how much of those are meat. If not, I'm sure they have it on their website.
They do. It is 88% duck, organs and bone, 10% vegetables, and they have 2% natural supplements. So when you mentioned, Brad, about, people would ask you, pet parents would say, where's the rest of the ingredient list? Because it's so short. And what you're alluding to is like this here on this particular bag. And this is the difference, which any pet parent who's buying pet food, I'm going to read this list and you can compare. And you'll hear the difference. So this is duck, which includes bone, and duck heart, duck gizzard, duck liver. There's organic butternut squash, organic celery, organic bok choy, organic cauliflower, organic green beans. Again, with organic. Dandelion
organic is so important now.
It is for no glyphosate. Right?
No glyphosate or other things. I mean, these days they're, breeding corn to produce its own BT. And that just keeps, I've read that keeps going inside the gut, and it has, bactericidal properties to it. You really have to protect the bacteria in your gut. That is what is helping you thrive.
That's the other discussion in our store every day. Because even feeding this, if we don't have a healthy gut, feeding any of these, Steve's, Northwest Naturals, Nulo, all of these, we have to have a healthy gut for absorption, and so that toxins don't go into the bloodstream.
And just to feel happy. We all know serotonin, right? Everyone's heard of serotonin. Everyone loves serotonin. It makes you feel great, right?
Happy.
So 90% of the body's serotonin is produced in your gut. If you don't have the right bacterial balance in your gut, you can produce up to 60% less.
Yeah.
So that's all your happy cut in half right there,
Yeah.
just from not having the right bacteria.
So
Right.
important. Everybody go get a healthy probiotic. So that list goes on: salmon oil, apple cider vinegar, cilantro, kelp, bee pollen, bilberry, wheatgrass, garlic, oregano, thyme. It's just, it's a
Amazing.
It's
beautiful
all
thing.
food-based. Yes.
Yeah,
It's-
food based.
I love that. Let's transition real quick because I cannot believe we're like in
Here
the
we go
last
again.
10 minutes. I know we could talk about this forever, but let's just real quick talk about how people can read a guaranteed analysis. So, we want our cats and dogs to eat the proper percentages of healthy fats, proteins. If dogs can eat a percentage of carbs, but they don't require them, and cats certainly don't require any because they're obligate carnivores. So, how do pet parents turn around a bag and determine how many carbs are in that particular food, whatever food they're feeding?
Start
We
at
have a
100.
formula. We have a
Yes, we
formula. So,
Right.
yeah,
Yeah.
Dina, do you want to share the formula?
Sure. I mean, or Brad, go ahead. I feel like I've talked the whole time, but start at 100. I'll get you started, Brad.
Go ahead,
Go
Brad.
ahead, Janet. You've got it in front of you. Go.
Start at 100. You're going to, I'm going to use this bag again. And, dry food or kibble is going to read and calculate very differently. And one of the reasons, I'm going to back up because I think looking at the ticker here, one of the reasons that Brad, you were invited this evening is because you do such a good job of talking about intracellular moisture and the need for that. So I feel like before we talk about carb calculation, we could do, while you do that, I'm going to go grab a bag of kibble, but then talk about moisture, hydration, and how important and critical it is.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
So we have a huge hydration problem in the pet world, especially in the cat world. I mean, these are obligate carnivores. They are made for eating a diet that is about 72, 73% water.
Yeah.
And that's how their body is designed to collect water. When you get water from a plant or animal source, it's called intracellular moisture. That's the moisture that is within their cells. Each cell is basically like a little water balloon full of water. The cool thing about the water inside these cells is that it's already been processed for hydrating a body. Now, when you drink water, like when I drink this, my body only receives about 70% of that. I lose some of that water during processing. By the time it gets into my cells, I have to balance it. It becomes a soup of enzymes, electrolytes, all sorts of different stuff. Now my body has done the work of processing it, and that water is in the perfect form for hydrating cells, because that's what it's currently doing. So when you eat plants or when you eat animals that are moisture rich, they hydrate you better than drinking water ever can. I was at a science museum yesterday. They have a T-Rex skeleton, and my son loves dinosaurs. They have a replica of the most complete T-Rex skeleton, so it was very cool to see. But as I was walking past, they had this little display on the wall of hydration, and it was really cool. And it showed what happens to the water in our body, where all of it goes, but it also shows where we get our water. In average humans, we get half of our water from the foods we eat, which is really cool. So because we eat some moisture-rich foods. But when you think of these dogs and cats who are eating a diet mostly of kibble, or all kibble, kibble's averages around 10% moisture. It is so dry. Their body almost has to rehydrate it just to digest it. So not only are you not adding moisture, but you're basically adding to a moisture deficit. There's somewhere I was going with that, but I lost my track. Either way, cats. Oh, exactly. So we get half of our moisture from the foods we eat, and we are excellent at drinking water. So if we can drink lots of water and we still get half of the moisture from the foods we eat, what does that mean for animals who cannot drink water very well, like cats? Cats did not develop to drink water very well. They're not good at scooping it up. They kind of slap it into their mouth. It's just not, they don't have the right mechanism for it. They came from a place that's very arid, and access to water is very, very dangerous. And so they're 100% made for hydrating through food. So when we feed them these dry foods, well, maybe now we can understand why the maximum lifespan for a cat is, 38? Is that the oldest cat in the world? Cream Puff lived to be 38.
Wow.
And yet the average is only around 16. Now we maybe can understand a little bit why they're not even living to half of their maximum lifespan. They're just dealing with this chronic daily dehydration.
Yeah.
So for cats, number one thing you can do, intracellular moisture, add moisture, add moisture. Kibble is not cutting it. They don't have the ability to drink enough water. And
the issue of just dehydration for humans and pets is it makes the body is a system. And so beginning with digestion, and then which includes not only the digestive tract, but you go into your kidneys and your liver, which have to filter out all the toxins. And all the while your heart is pumping, right, to keep everything going. And so it's kind of like oil in a car, and you want to keep it clean. You want to keep it full so that everything works and functions appropriately, and the car keeps going without sputtering and slowing down and eventually dying. It is the same with humans and pets. And so to your point about dry food or kibble, another one of the things we talk daily about is just educating pet parents on using feeding time to get more moisture and hydration into your pet. And it can be as simple as adding filtered water. And we do stress filtered because of, heavy metals, mineral deposits, everything that can corrode the plumbing, the pipes,
right.
So ours, if we don't have bone broth, if we don't have goat milk, right now we have Steve's Canagurt that they're getting. We have green juju goat milk, but water, just filtered water. We use our reverse osmosis, and they get, the little guys get probably half a cup to 3/4 of a cup, which they honestly, could do more. But my big guys get at least 1 cup of moisture added. Even feeding them raw, I still add moisture to the bowl.
Awesome.
And then freeze dried. When you get into freeze dried, you always want to hydrate. And Steve's has freeze dried nuggets, and it even says on the bag that they recommend hydrating and letting it soak up the moisture.
We are almost out of time, you guys. So I want to just wrap up with the guaranteed analysis.
Yes.
So just teaching you guys real quick how to calculate the percentage of carbs in your cat's or dog's food. You take 100, because 100% of the food, and then you subtract the percentage of protein that's on the label, and then you subtract the percentage of fat, and then you subtract the percentage of moisture. And then you subtract the ash. If it doesn't have an ash amount, the average is about 6. So you can just subtract 6%. And whatever you're left with is the percentage of carbohydrate. So, like we said, for cats, they don't have a requirement for carbs. So you want this number to be very low, like 2 to 4, 6%, if you can get it that low. Dogs can be higher than that, of course. But carbs are not something that you're going to see on a label. So you've got to do the math and calculate it yourself.
This one was 39.5%.
I will jump in and say, you can have higher than that for dogs, but I wouldn't really try to get your carbs low for dogs. They have no biological need for it. Too many just wreaks havoc in their body. It is really not a good situation now.
No.
100%. 100%.
So
we are going to
1.36%. The raw, 1.36%. The dry was 39.5%. And for a
Wow.
dry, this actually isn't bad.
Yeah,
There's
that is
some that
that's
are
lower.
quite a bit higher.
Exactly, exactly. Well, any final thoughts, Brad, before we close it up today? I so appreciate you being here and sharing your knowledge and expertise.
Yeah, I did want to say, it's not all or nothing. You did mention before 20% of fresh food or raw food in any diet can make a huge difference. I saw that exact same thing with my dogs. I'm still not always fully raw. I still reach for processed convenience food sometimes. That's the lifestyle. It's okay not to be all or nothing. Do what you can. Just do what you
Yes.
can.
Yeah, do what you can. Janet?
I
Last thought?
agree. I reiterate what Brad said. That is exactly how I got started. I was so relieved because I was feeling quite defeated when I started to learn what I have learned, and I learn every day. And I remember being given that almost like hall pass where they said, just improve 20 to 25%. Just start somewhere.
Yeah.
It's like, letting go of the Pop-Tarts and, eating a banana, but something healthy and whole. So yeah, I completely concur. Start there
Awesome.
and adding water.
Yes, moisture. Well, thank you guys for tuning in tonight. I so appreciate everybody watching, everybody being here. We hope this was informative. We hope you learned something. We want you to go home and start looking at your labels and calculating the carbs in your pet's food. Practice, because the more you do this, the more you're going to remember it, and start applying what you're learning, and little changes can make huge differences. So we will say goodbye for this evening. Thank you for being here and for sharing your wealth of knowledge, the two of you. I truly appreciate you. And everyone else, we will see you next month. So have a great rest of your evening.
Thank
Bye,
you.
guys.
Thanks.